Okay, this last part is about the linguistic evidence about what these holidays mean. And the Germanic version is very important because it preserves this ancient wisdom before Christianity came through and Christianized them, right? When you Christianize them, you kind of make everything the same and ignore what they were in the past. Nobody chose to be Christianized. It was always like this forced thing. It usually was en masse by the king marrying a Christian woman. That was often the way it happened. Often in mass Christianizing baptizes during Easter. So this word Easter is a Germanic name. It's important because it's a divergence from the Paschal version, trying to say, okay, we no longer want to apply, we don't want to associate ourselves with the Jewish story, our forefathers, right? We want to break away. Sorry, I get excited about this. This is when my brother says, Vicky, you sound so angry. Okay, but this is so important. What's in the word Easter? East. The place of the rising sun. There is no scholarly acknowledgement of where that word comes from. It's all over the place. Some will say it kind of is associated with dawn, right? Which is the other word for sunrise, the confusing word for sunrise. This os word, Easter. Os is also often associated with God. This os, as, is. All of these vowels are relevant. It's the consonants that hold the place over time. In Hebrew and Egyptian languages actually don't even preserve the vowels. So the vowel doesn't matter as much, but it's this is sound. But it's not is, os, is, it's east. There's a T. There's a definite T. That's significant because that's a feminine quality in Egyptian language. East, the oldest derivation we can find, is spelled I-S-T, but pronounced East, E-E-S-T, and that is associated with Ishtar, Aset. Different versions of the way her name is said, and in Greek, her name translates to Isis, and then she translates to Ashtoreth in the Judaism world, who was then demonized and blamed for the demolition of Israel. Come back to that. She is Astarte. The word star comes from her name, and the word east comes from her name. Both things are very important. Astarte in the Mesopotamian area. And you have to realize, we're kind of getting into that. I don't want to get too far into that, but Egypt and the Middle East, Mesopotamia, Babylonia, all of that, the Jewish people are right in between there, right? They're at this crossroads of these two major megalith, amazing civilizations. It is very debated who's older than who, but we know we all came from Africa. So it's a debate, and I'm on the Africa side. There's a lot of cool things that came from over there, and there was a lot of culture exchange, very much, and it was very beautiful, right? There was a lot of trade. There was also trade of these blue beads back with Germania, right? At critical moments in time, 2000 BC, there were these trading of these blue beads between all of these places. From Egypt, the Egyptian beads ended up in Germany, and they also ended up in the Greek islands of Crete. Now that is very significant. It means when you see trade like that, there's always ideas being traded. That means there was an absolute conduit for contact between those two peoples, many different peoples, but especially Germanic people and the Egyptians. So there's a link, right? There's actually even a story in Scotland that says Scota was the Egyptian princess that married someone in Scotland and gave them their name. Scota was apparently an Egyptian princess. So that means she had to come through Hispania. Now remember that word is in Hispania. That's relevant. Let's pay attention to these words that have the hiss sound. The Hispania people, she would have come through there, that Egyptian princess. Now these stories matter. The first version of Cinderella, the first version of the Troy stories, the Trojan horse, all of these existed in Egyptian stories first. And the very first alphabet was written by Jewish people in Egypt trying to copy the hieroglyphs. There's one alphabet in the entire world that derives all of the others. That is the root of all of the other alphabets, except for one, Korean. The Korean alphabet was invented totally in an isolated case, copying the Chinese letters in 1400 AD. So totally separate. All of this matters, right? All of our alphabets are coming from the Jewish people making phonetic signs out of the Egyptian one. And all of this matters. It all comes back. Okay, but coming back to Easter and why that matters. If Easter is named after a woman, okay, maybe there's just maybe there's just the name, right? That's kind of cool. Is the name of a woman. It happens to be about the East and the rising sun, and East gets its name. The rising sun gets its name from a goddess, a mother goddess in Egypt. It's not just the name. It existed in the way they celebrated it. And now we have evidence in Germania that around 200 AD, which meaning it would be a lot earlier before that, there are these many, many, many different, they call them Austria. So that word os having to do with Easter, they're this derivation of Easter. Austria Hene, these statues of women with the word Austre, found in a way that says there was probably a temple there, because there are these like locations, several of them, with many, many that you could say there was a big deal. There was this goddess there. Oh, hi. Hello. Hey.